Fantasy football's finally here, and his quarterback start sits every matchup I go through. And either it's going to be a start, sit, or a borderline option where it could go either way for the quarterbacks. First game of the season, Thursday Night Football, Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm pretty straightforward with this one. Lamar Jackson, you drafted him as a top 5 quarterback, top 4. He's a start each and every week. I know it's two good defenses going at it and two great teams overall, but Lamar's a start, and same with Patrick Mahomes. And I believe this season, Mahomes, it'll be a better fantasy year for him with Xavier Worthy added, Rashee Rice another year, and not getting suspended, and Hollywood Brown, even though he's out in this game, in the wide receiver room as well. And those two guys are studs and starts this week. Green Bay Packers, Philadelphia Eagles in Brazil, Friday game. And we rarely see Friday games, but I think it's going to be a staple over the next couple of years, where there's going to be some more Friday games in the NFL. We saw a Black Friday last season with the Jets and the Dolphins, and now we're seeing it kick it off the season with the Packers and the Eagles. Jordan Love, what a season it was for him last season, top 5 quarterback towards the end of the season in points per game. So he's a start. I know his weapons, there's not really a true number 1 wide receiver there. Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, we'll see if he's healthy. Latavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, but there's still good weapons on this offense. Jordan Love, he's been a gamer. He got the big contract, and even versus a great Philadelphia defense, I have him as a start. Jalen Hurts, he was drafted as a top 2 or 3 quarterback for most fantasy owners. I know his rushing yards might go down, and the tush-push might not be a big thing this season with Jason Kelce retiring, but he's matchup-proof, and this is some offense adding Saquon Barkley to the mix. He's a start. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons. Russell Wilson, I'm surprised he won the starting job, but I believe he won't have it for very long over there in Pittsburgh. I think Justin Fields, he gives any team a better chance to win, especially than an aging vet like Russell Wilson. So even in the middle of the pack matchup at the Falcons, he's a sit. Kirk Cousins, borderline option this week for me. Cousins, he was drafted very late in fantasy drafts, or undrafted in some drafts. We'll see how he comes off the injury. We'll see how he does with his new team. And we also know this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is a good D, so right now, maybe you want to take a wait-and-see approach with Cousins to start week 1. And he's borderline. Next game, Minnesota Vikings at the Giants. This one, unless you're in 2 quarterback leagues or the deepest of leagues, 16, 18-team leagues, you're not starting Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones. These are possibly 2 of the worst starting quarterbacks in all pro football going into the season. It's pretty close with them and a couple other starters around the league. But obviously in your basic 10, 12, 14-team leagues, you're not starting any Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. A sit. Arizona Cardinals at the Bills. I think this could be a mini shootout between these two teams. Kyler Murray, he's looked healthier after a year now removed from the ACL injury. And Kyler Murray's got the best weapons of his career. He's played with Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to be a stud wide receiver, I believe, for this Cardinal team. And also Trey McBride, who broke out second half last season, and his rushing ability. And for the Bills, Josh Allen, most fantasy leagues, he was the number 1 quarterback off the board for fantasy owners. So he's a start each and every week. I know his weapons are questionable. Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, who's possibly not playing in this game. But Josh Allen, with his rushing yards and his ability, he's a start each and every week. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Dolphins. Trevor Lawrence last season was a disappointing year after he had a breakout season the year before was Trevor Lawrence. But this week, in the middle of the pack matchup with a Dolphin defense, that, you know, if Dolphins get up to a big lead, their defense is going to tee off and make some plays. So this week, Trevor Lawrence at best is a borderline option. I like the weapons better this year for him this last year. You got Brian Thomas Jr. they drafted, Gabe Davis, who I think could be decent, and also still Christian Kirk in the slot with Evan Ingram and Travis Etienne out of the backfield. So they're definitely good weapons, but week 1, I would take a slow approach here with Trevor Lawrence. And if you want to play him, that's fine, but I got him as a borderline option. Tua at home's a much better quarterback than he is on the road. And this offense is geared once again and ready to go. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, and Tua, we know at home, like I said, he puts up the big numbers in this Jacksonville defense, middle of the pack. So Tua, he was the quarterback 11 or 12, usually off the board in fantasy drafts. He's a start this week. New England Patriots at the Cincinnati Bengals. Jacoby Brissett named the starter over Drake May early in the season, but I think that'll only last for a few weeks. And Brissett, we've seen some big games out of him throughout his career. But obviously, if you got to start Jacoby Brissett, even in 2 quarterback leagues, in 10-team leagues, that's a definitely problem, but he's a sit. And Joe Burrow, I'll give the nod. I know Jamar Chase, we don't know what the deal is going to be with Jamar Chase. If he's going to be ready for week one, if they give him the contract or not, but he's holding out for every penny, where he wants a penny more than Justin Jefferson, he said. Joe Burrow still has pretty good weapons. I think T. Higgins can have a bounce-back season, stay healthy. I know Tyler Boyd, he left in free agency. Also, a tight end, Mike Gesicki, and out of the backfield, Zach Moss and Chase Brown. So obviously, you'll be tougher, but even in a matchup versus middle-of-the-pack Patriot defense, I would start Burrow, Houston Texans, at Indianapolis Colts. Good division matchup, in my opinion. C.J. Stroud, it could be a monster season for him once again, with now Stephon Diggs added to the receiver room to go with Tank Dell and Nico Collins. And C.J. Stroud, he could throw for 4,500 to 5,000 yards, I believe, this season. So right now, C.J. Stroud, nice start this week to kick it off. He's in the lineup, and he's had one of the better rookie years we've seen at the quarterback position. Anthony Richardson has started as well. He was a top 5, top 7 quarterback off the board for fantasy owners. And the only thing with Richardson is health, but if he stays healthy, we know the rushing yards are going to be there. And this could be a division shootout ball game. So I like both quarterbacks as a start. Tennessee Titans at the Chicago Bears. Will Levis is a sit for me. But I think Will Levis, he could definitely have upside. He's got a big arm, and he's got some good weapons over there. You got Calvin Ridley they brought in the offseason. DeAndre Hopkins, it looks like he's going to be healthy and possibly play week one as well. And also at the tight end position, Chiga Kongwo, Tyler Boyd, third receiver, Spears and Pollard out of the backfield. It's a pretty good offense, but it's tough to go in there with Will Levis in week one, so he's a sit. Caleb Williams, one of the best situations you'll ever see a rookie come into with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift in the backfield, Roma Dunze, Cole Kmet. So that's a great offense, no doubt about it. But this Tennessee defense is a pretty decent defense, I believe. And Caleb Williams, first start of his career, I don't know how he's going to fare. So right now, he definitely was drafted in tons of fantasy leagues, but he's a borderline option for me. Week one, next game, Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints. Not much to say about this one. I think Bryce Young will improve with some added weapons this season in Deontay Johnson, Jonathan Brooks, but I don't see him having much fantasy value. And this week, he's a sit. Derek Carr, sit for me as well. He got the big money contract last season from the New Orleans Saints. But this Saint team, offensively, they don't have much besides Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. Shaheed, we'll see if he can break out as a second receiver. But if you went into the season with these guys as your quarterbacks, I don't know what to tell you, but their sits this week. Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. Gardner Minshew won the starting job over Aiden O'Connell. And Gardner Minshew, he had some good moments last season. He's a gunslinger and someone who's not scared to throw that football and stretch the field, where they got pretty decent weapons. Devontae Adams, Brock Bowers in the lineup. But this week, you can't go into it starting Gardner Minshew. Justin Herbert, I know he's depleted weapons on this offense. Keenan Allen gone, Austin Eckler gone, Mike Williams gone, Gerald Everett gone. But Justin Herbert, in my opinion, he's still a top 10 quarterback talent-wise in terms of getting the football down the field and making things happen no matter who the receivers are. So this season, going in with young receivers, Quentin Johnson, Joshua Palmer, Ladd McConkey as the top 3 guys. It's definitely going to be growing pains, but I think Justin Herbert this week in a potential shootout in a division ball game to kick off the season is a start in those 12-team leagues or deeper. Denver Broncos at the Seattle Seahawks. Bo Nix, he won the starting job out of training camp. I think he could be a decent pro, but he's tough to go into week one, especially the 12th man in Seattle, to have any confidence. And Bo Nix, he's out there more than 50% of fantasy leagues as well. He's a sit. Geno Smith is sit for me as well. Geno 2 years ago had a monster season, and the potential and the players are there, no doubt about it, for the Seahawks. DK Metcalf, JSN, Smith-Njigba, and Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant, Kenneth Walker, and Zach Charbonnet out of the backfield. So they got a well-rounded offense, but Geno Smith is hard to trust. And like I said, he's only had one big year in his NFL career. Washington Commanders at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jaden Daniels, have confidence in him, where this Buc team's middle of the pack. And Jaden Daniels, he could be amongst the league leaders in rushing yards at the quarterback position. He was going into the year, he was a top 12 quarterback I had ranked. And I know the weapons aren't great. Terry McLaurin, Ben Stinnett, Zach Ertz, tight end position, number 2 receiver. Not much going on there. But like I said, with his legs and his poise in the pocket for the Heisman Trophy winner, I would like him as a start this week if he's on your roster. Baker Mayfield is a sit. I know Baker had a pretty good year No doubt about it, coming out of nowhere last season, where it pretty much was his last chance. But him and Mike Evans hooked up for some big plays, and he got the $100 million deal with Baker. But this week versus the Commanders, where their defense is definitely improved, he's tough to trust, and he wasn't drafted in many leagues as well. So he's a sit. Dallas Cowboys at the Cleveland Browns, two of the better defenses going at it in this one. Dak Prescott last season, his best season as an NFL pro, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, over 4,500 yards. I doubt he's going to do that again, even though it is a contract season for Dak Prescott. And this week is a tough matchup, so I would limit expectations a little bit, where I think he'll only score 15, 20 fantasy points at most this week. But still, I put Dak Prescott in the starting lineup. Deshaun Watson, suspensions, off the field stuff, and just injuries the last couple seasons have done him in. And versus a pretty good Dallas Cowboy defense, it's tough to trust Deshaun Watson at all. And it would take time for him to get back into groove of things, but he's not even 100% right now. So he's a sit this week. Sunday Night Football playoff rematch, Los Angeles Rams at the Detroit Lions. And I believe this is going to be a shootout once again. Matthew Stafford, great weapons. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum out of the backfield. So Stafford versus former team. I think on Sunday night he could go out there and put up a big performance, is Matthew Stafford. Like I said, with all those weapons, and I would have confidence starting him in those 12, 14-team leagues. Same with Jared Goff at home. He's a much better quarterback than he is on the road. Great weapons, obviously, as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams. So Goff, like I said, home games are where I would start him. On the road, home splits are definitely night and day difference. But Jared Goff's to start this week in the final game Monday night, New York Jets at the San Francisco 49ers. Aaron Rodgers' first game back after tearing the Achilles game 1 last season on Monday Night Football, plays into the year. But Aaron Rodgers, tough matchup. I don't know what we're going to get from Rodgers this season, 40 years old, coming off a major injury. And he's versing a buzzsaw of a defense, and a defense, obviously, that's not happy after losing in the Super Bowl their last game. So with a bad taste in their mouth, and Aaron Rodgers behind center at 40 years old, I just don't like the recipe in this one. He's a sit. And Brock Purdy, great weapons, no doubt about it. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. He should play in this one after signing the big contract extension, Christian McCaffrey. But tough matchup versus New York Jet defense. That's one of the better defenses in the league, and they're going to bring it week 1. Especially Monday Night Football versus the 49ers, who won the NFC last season. So Brock Purdy's a borderline option. So that's quarterback start sits every matchup for week 1 of the fantasy football season.